Howdy, folks. Happy Tuesday. We're here. We're going to discuss a lot of things, a lot of news. There was a minor trade last night. Some coaches that are in trouble. One, I think, could lose his job based on the way his team is playing. The other one, well, we don't know. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. We'll have Eck today, but we'll start with our pre-show. Go ahead, Russ.
So Major League Baseball right now is talking about wiping out the minor leagues. Just 42 teams gone. And
now, did they say single A, double A, like what level?
I think it's all levels.
Okay.
So like 42 teams would go. The problem with this is a lot of stadiums are publicly funded. There's a lot of jobs tied to it, and it does affect the economy of a lot of areas. So a Major League Baseball may be looking at it from a back room and a bean counter standpoint. It affects more than that. Right now, Bernie Sanders is going to talk to Rob Manfred, which I think is good. And I think a lot of congressmen and senators should talk to him because I think they all should remind Rob Manfred that they have antitrust exemption.
Right.
And they could change that with a magic vote that would all of a sudden have MLB paying a lot more tax like a real business instead of being like a public trust. And I think this is where Rob Manfred has to look at this carefully and not just look at what could be a savings because, you know, they're trying to give you this hocus pocus that it's going to be better for development. They can use colleges for development. This isn't the NBA. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
There's not enough colleges to do it. You have to have a minor leagues. You have to. And if they do away with a lot of this, they will ruin some areas. There's no question about it. Some stadiums will go empty. There'll be jobs lost. And I'm glad at least Manfred's going to talk about it and not just do it. Because, again, what do you think? Like the antitrust, that's a massive thing that they could do that.
And they've had that since Kennesaw Mountain Landis. They've had that, I think, actually may have been even been before.
May have been before.
Yeah, I think he was somehow involved because he was a federal judge before he became commissioner. But yeah, I mean, this is the thing. And, you know, Buffalo is a AAA affiliate. They've been an affiliate of Cleveland. They've been an affiliate of Pittsburgh. I think that was AA, the White Sox, a few other teams. Now they're the AAA affiliate of the Blue Jays. It's a good relationship in the sense that, you know, if a player gets called up, they only have to drive up to QEW to get to the Blue Jays. There's some regional interest in players like when they had Guerrero. It would be a shame I think like they would be one of the teams that would not be in danger because they actually make money. They actually are profitable. You know, they have, 10,000 people on a Friday night.
Yeah.
Mostly there for the low price beer, but doesn't really matter. And
aside from you, I mean, we're just talking about other people.
Right. I'm there for the hot dogs.
Used to be peanuts too, Mike. Let's be real.
Well, yeah, that guy died. So what the hell can we do? But I mean, I would think that these 40 some odd teams that they're probably looking to get out of are ones that could be rookie ball, single A, ones that don't make a lot of profit, the ones that people don't go to. But to the point, it's like you're going down the road where they've tried this before. Other leagues have tried eliminating developmental leagues because they're not profitable, but you need them to develop your talent. So I don't know why, you know, they go down this road. I mean, it takes money and it takes time to develop talent.
Yeah, it does. And you can't just magically develop it all in college. You know, it's more involved than that. You also have to worry about, and again, I don't know how many teams would survive this. I haven't seen the number, but as an example, when you're signing your Latin American free agents and your Dominican free agents and your Japanese free agents, you know, not all of them go straight to the majors. Japanese ones generally do, but the Dominican and Latin ones don't. And
you know what's going to happen though if this actually goes through, and believe me, Manfred has proposed things that are just, I mean, they're just asinine. They really are. I mean, not only, you know, like, I mean, some people think the DH in the National League is an eventuality. I still don't. I think there are enough people out there that are
I would fight it. I agree.
and that are traditionalists that they won't go that direction. The robot umpires and things of that nature. The clock for the pitcher. I've even heard it's like a softball thing. Like, we'll start the count 1-1.
Yeah, no, don't do that.
I mean, okay. Are you going to basically make it into slow pitch softball? Are you going to do it that so you can, baseball is not hockey. It's not football. It's not basketball. No. There is no time limit. Right. That's one of the things that people like about it. Now, in August when there's a doubleheader and it's 100 degrees outside and you're playing a game at 11 o'clock in the morning because it was canceled in April because it was a monsoon. Okay, but that's very few and far between.
Right. And you just sit in the shade, so you don't care.
Right. Hey, I know where to sit in Yankee Stadium while other people are melting and having ice handed out to them. I'm sitting in the shade, drinking a Coke and eating a Hebrew National hot dog, and I'm good.
Yeah, there's a certain pace to baseball that I wish younger fans would understand, and maybe if they would look at baseball like the rules. And even if you didn't play, just sort of look at when you play a video game, look at it. I think they would have a different appreciation for it instead of, studying some other things like online games and whatever. Just put like 2 minutes in, you might like baseball if you actually know it.
Well, just to touch on a couple things baseball, and then we'll get started here. Joel Sherman in the New York Post wrote today that the Yankees, the Cashman and Aaron Boone went out to California to talk to Garrett Cole and to Strasburg. And basically, like deep down in the story, he said, well, the winter meetings are in California. So they basically went out there 2 days early. It's like, so it wasn't like they made this big trip cross country to go see them. They were already going out there. So they just left a day or two early. I don't particularly believe that either one of them is going to the Yankees.
Right.
But
the other guys in their cars and putting something like that together. They've tried to do that before and it fails miserably. Like it's not an event of anything, but I will say this. So far, the off season has gone very slow, and I'm not sure how much even the GM meetings are going to heat up. This could be another long winter and waiting for guys to sign.
Yeah, and the other thing was, and I wanted to get your comment on it because I saw there's some speculation online that the Mets are going after Josh Hader,
a former Brody client.
Yes, but also very there were some allegations regarding some of his was it Instagram posts or something like that?
Yeah, it was Instagram posts with him.
Yeah, when he was younger, that had a.
Yeah. Look, the guy can pitch. If they really have to trade Dominic Smith to get him, I don't think I'm in favor of that. If they could trade J.D. Davis and somebody else, I'm more in favor of that. But I just read something where the Mets are trying to, because they want to save money, trade Jed Lowry, Jerry's Familia, and Dominic Smith to a team so they could dump the salaries. And it's like, how about sign the right players so you don't have to trade prospects and dump the salaries? I know that's a novel idea.
I think the Wilpons are going to use the Bernie Madoff thing as an excuse.
You can't use it anymore. They make plenty of money.
I know, but they're going to continue to use it as an excuse in perpetuity, which means forever. All right. Okay. We'll get started here. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Tuesday, December 3rd, 2019.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology. Check out the Black Widow trailer. It's really good.
Who's in the Black Widow trailer?
Scarlett Johansson. She's getting her own movie.
Oh, okay.
Marvel Universe. Very good.
Well, I thumbs up on Scarlett Johansson. And I'm Michael Lagello, and this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. And if I hear one more complaint about The Irishman being too long.
I didn't see it yet, so I don't know.
I've seen,
I know it's 3.5 hours, which for some people, they're instantly out.
Well, okay, yeah, I wouldn't go to see it in the theater because halfway through I'd have to go to the bathroom. I'm getting to that age, but it's on Netflix. So if you can watch episodes of something, you can stop midway through.
Right, and that's what I'm going to do with it.
All right. Just sort of collateral damage, and we'll just touch on this again briefly.
Or do you want to do the breaking news first?
Go ahead.
The breaking news is just as we thought the Winnipeg Jets had settled the ship, Dmitry Kulikov is out until the All-Star break. I don't even know what the injury is, but that is the last place they could get an injury, afford an injury, is on the blue line. Now, it seems like you have to bring up Sammy Niku, right? Like, it just seems like you have to.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, first of all, Kulikov has had a history of injury problems.
Yeah.
It was weird because now I don't remember if his injury problems went back to Florida. I think he was fairly durable then, but I was at a preseason game between the Sabres and the Leafs, and he got checked into near the boards, near the Sabres bench. I cannot remember the Leaf that did it. It may have been like a Jay Rosehill type of guy.
Jay Rosehill, sure.
I don't know. I can't remember for
I know. I know the type.
Oh, it was Jamie Devane.
Okay.
Jamie Devane. So he hits him along the boards right as the door to the bench was opening. So he got hit and hit the corner of the board where it was open, and it screwed up his back. And he had been acquired by the Sabres with a year left in his contract, and they were hoping that he would have a big year leading into free agency, and then they would let him go, and he'd have a that kind of year, to sell his wares in free agency, and he was hurt, and he's been hurt off and on. Now, this is an injury on top of Bufflin, on top of the fact that they traded Trouba. I don't know whether Morrissey is back or not. I know that he was out before, but they're just getting hurt in the wrong area all the time.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, he's just had such a weird career. He's 11 years into it. Maybe this is his 12th.
Mm-hmm.
And, there was thoughts of him being a good offensive player. And that went out the window a long time ago. He's literally only got 164 points.
Mm-hmm.
He's a minus 52 for his career. Like, I know plus minus isn't everything, but my goodness. It's just, this is how bad off sometimes teams are for defensemen. Now, I will say in the Winnipeg system, he's played fairly well as far as a puck-moving defenseman. But that's really what he is.
Right.
But at this point, they need that. Because, December 1st, they put Nathan Below on IR.
Yeah.
So they're running out of guys. And it's a shame because
they're actually having a pretty good season.
They're having a good season. I just included them in power rankings on the Stick to Hockey podcast. And Connor Hellebuck's having a Vezina-type year.
Right. And he's had to, based on their years on the blue line. Now, Funky Colds.
No, here we go.
No, he says, would the Jets be interested in Mike Green? And you got to remember, Funky, is that they can't do anything until they get some clarification on the Bufflin situation.
Yeah,
and we don't know how long that's going to be.
They're in cap hell with that.
Right. That's a football going back and forth between the PA and the NHL. And like the Jets can say all they want. Well, okay, we need this clarified. They don't care. They're on their own timetable. It could be till after the deadline, and then they're screwed.
Right. There is nothing law, anything rule that's making them report this any quicker. So we don't know. We don't know what's going on. So they're going to have to just deal with it from within. But this is a tough place for them to be in. And see, now that Eck gets here, the Hockey Buzz thing goes right in the middle of my head. I just don't like it.
Hey, I'm cut off by the live thing, but that goes away when people watch it on YouTube. So
welcome Eck in by all means.
Hi, Eck.
Hello. How's everyone doing?
Welcome to the HockeyBuzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. Have you heard of it before?
Thanks. Yes, I have.
We were just talking about Kulikov out until late January.
Yeah, I just heard that too. Wow. Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, lots to get into. Are we officially in the actual show?
We are live.
Yes, we are live.
We're in the show. Oh, no,
okay.
We finished our pre-show, boring baseball stuff. Now we're into hockey. We saved
good.
the Mark Crawford stuff for us.
Yeah, why don't you guys start into that a little bit? Because
I will tell you this. Yesterday I brought it up on the show.
Yeah.
And I made a statement that I can't believe nothing's happened with that yet. And literally today, something has happened. So I'm happy to see the Blackhawks act on this, but it is very late. I mean, Brent Sopel brought this up a year ago.
Yeah, and in listening to some shows at noon, they were saying, well, Patrick O'Sullivan brought up stuff about Crawford when he was in LA and things that were related to him, and it was in a book that was over a year ago.
Yeah.
Plus, some of the allegations that sort of disappeared during the whole Steve Moore Bertuzzi thing. I mean, there are things with Crawford that have rung bells and that have and that now are being brought to the forefront. And as we said yesterday, and we're not going to go into all of them because we'll wait till the next shoe gets dropped. But
Right.
there are other coaches with other allegations,
Yep.
and we'll see if that gets brought up. But now, it all comes from it all stems from Babcock, and then Akeem Alou with the Bill Peters situation and everybody coming out against Peters. And now it's basically open season on coaches who, did things that now are not acceptable.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Crawford will be back. I don't. I know he wants to talk about it, but he's waiting for the Blackhawks to finish their investigation. But I don't think he'll be back. I really don't think they're going to want him back. And again, some of these coaches are going to find that this is the end of the line, because at the end of the day, and I'll just say it again, if this is your coaching method, you're a bad coach.
Yeah, well,
You're not being a bad person.
Well, Ray Ferraro had an interesting point of view on this, because before the Marner thing came out, people were asking, will Babcock get another job? I think we asked that on this show, and we said, yeah, but it would depend on like when he wants to come back. That he could come back like right away if there was a job that was an opening, or if he wanted to wait the year like Quenneville did, he could do that. But if he wants a job, he'll get it. Now the general consensus out there is, that's not necessarily the case. Ferraro said that essentially a guy like Babcock, who has coached a certain way for a certain amount of time, is going to have to, go through some sort of like sensitivity training, or go through some, vetting process where it's like, okay, you cannot do this stuff anymore.
Yeah.
If you do, you're gone right away. And
I don't know if anybody's going to hire Babcock. Peter's definitely not. I'm not sure anybody's going to hire Mike Babcock.
And that's
what GM is going to want to deal with that.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think so. I agree with you. And I didn't even think, I mean, honestly, the mood out there is so much trending away from coaches like Babcock right now, that the ones that are sticking around, like even the ones that are still like going like now, like say Boudreaux, for example, coaches like that, they're sort of seeing the writing on the wall too.
Yeah, but Boudreaux has never been accused of being abusive toward his players.
No.
He used salty language.
Well, I mean, even if we take away the abusive part of it, like I said, but we talked about on the show, you guys thought he'd get a job next time he went to whatever before the abusive stuff came out. Even I'm not buying it, because I just don't think he can. I think that there's a lot of good young coaches coming up, and there's definitely a move towards that right now. And
well, I mean, what broke yesterday with Johan Franz, and like we always heard that Babcock was tough on him. This isn't tough. This is cruel.
Yeah.
He's actually cruel. When you get to the point mentally where you don't want to show up at the rink, and that's the thing that you love most in the world,
right?
And you feel like you're depressed. That is an awful thing to have happen to a human being.
And he also said the same thing that other people have said about this situation, that this is the tip of the iceberg. That you're just hearing.
No question about that.
Right. So this, we better get used to it, because this is going to be an ongoing story, and it's not just going to be these guys. These were the first. And the only thing that I'm concerned about is that, like with any situation like this, some people could get put into the mix that maybe don't deserve to be put into the mix. I know that some people, there have been coaches that have been mentioned, and other commentators and former players saying, no, that's not the case. He's a good guy. He treated me great. It's an individual thing. So, and the thing is, it's going to be a vetting process with all these coaches and all these players, because if there's a player out there that's throwing out accusations, I mean, you have to trust the person who's making the accusation to be able to, or at least verify, to be able to believe what they're saying is true.
No, that's true. But I mean, it's really fascinating, because we talked about, like, I had a story a while ago about, is the NHL finally getting woke? Remember we talked about this with
yes,
and that was with Don Sherry, which honestly, even though he's not a coach or anything, that it does feel like it's all is connecting to it somehow. Like this whole thing of the old school versus the new school of political correctness or whatever you want, whatever you call it, and versus just flat out abuse versus other things. There's all different sorts of things there, and sports has been, this is happening in hockey right now, but I can't friggin' imagine what's gone on in the NFL. Like, I can't even think about it. Like to me, I think hockey, which is probably one of the kindest and gentlest sports out there, as far as the people I've dealt with, as far as coaches and stuff like that. I mean, can you think of what's going on in football? I mean, it's just, to me, this is the tip of the iceberg of sports in general.
I mean, we can go back to college football, Woody Hayes, like Mike brought him up. We can go up back to college basketball with the guy from Indiana, Bobby Knight.
Well, I was going to say you could go back to Bear Bryant, the Junction Boys, where basically the stuff that he was doing, is kind of the kind of stuff that killed a guy like Corey Stringer years later when Minnesota they were like double workouts in 100-degree heat.
Yeah.
No water.
So the NFL acted on it way before the NHL because they used to have a thing called two-a-days. They don't do that anymore.
Right.
That's been away beyond that, just the mental abuse that goes on. Like I think that's the thing that you have to even take further.
I'm sure there's some of it I don't see or hear about it, so I don't know. I
mean, Bobby, was the player Neil Reed? I think it was Russ, the one that he choked in a practice.
Yeah, I don't remember the name.
Yeah, the Bobby Knight thing. That was terrible. Someone brought that up in that.
Yeah, but see, the thing is, Bobby Knight did that in public. Bobby Knight was throwing chairs across the court at referees.
Yeah,
that was a very public thing. It wasn't just the things that were being done in practice or in the locker room. It was public. But that was, and not to say that was acceptable, but people would say, "Oh, okay, he's tough, but he's a winner," and everything.
This culture starts down at the youth sports level. Honestly, the whole thing. And I can say, as I've been a coach of a youth soccer team for many years, my daughter's team. I've been an assistant coach, and I've had head coaches that have been two really, really, really good guys, and we didn't run this kind of climate, but we were around other people who we had girls come from other teams because they were being, really abused, or things not just mentally abused, like the things that were being said to them, the things that were being, how their confidence was just being shot. Which when you look at like a teenage girl or whatever, or a preteen girl, it's just horrendous because sports is really about building confidence. That's what it's supposed to be about.
Right.
When you get to the higher levels of these sports, it becomes about, like making the girls hate you or whatever, and being that kind of a coach. And that, we see it even now, like with some of the high schools around here, because my team's kind of like an all-star team of like 3 counties in this area, our soccer team. The girls, I hear their high school stories and they're horrible. And they come in and they're like, well, those coaches got more out of me because they were nastier to me. And we thought I had this discussion, and we said, well, listen,
there's something to be a disciplinarian, but then there's something to be cruel too.
Not even disciplinarian though. I know. I mean, it's not like you're not. It's just there's a cruelty aspect to it that is really frightening.
Well, and I don't. And after this, we should move on to hockey, real hockey stuff on the ice, and some trade rumors, but. I don't know if either of you have seen the movie, and it's not a sports movie, but in terms of the type of coach, the movie Whiplash, where a music coach is driving a kid who's playing drums to the point of physically, verbally, mentally abusing him to get him to the point that to draw him out to be this virtuoso drummer. It's like, that doesn't fly anymore. You cannot do this kind of stuff as a coach to, use every tactic that you can that is, motivational, but not to it's abuse. I mean, the stuff that Johan I brought this up to Russ yesterday. Thank God Johan Franzen had the mental fortitude to survive what Babcock put him through. Yeah. God forbid it was somebody who was less formidable, we could be talking about a player committing suicide because
no. And it happens already. I mean, it happens in high school. It happens in colleges, stuff like that. You're right. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, Andy Strickland just posted 3 hours ago. I don't know if you saw this. This happened back in 2007 when Andy was with Hockey Buzz. And he says, I was verbally attacked initially and intentionally intimidated by Mike Babcock outside the Red Wings dressing room in 2007. Former Detroit video coach Jay Woodcroft brought him to me, had me up against the wall while screaming and pointing in my face because of a story I'd written. This is like that. This kind of stuff, I've seen it. I've seen it in different situations. I've seen it happen to other people. It's amazing, and it is just, it's phenomenal that it's been allowed to go on this long, and yet we still see this culture, and people believe you have to be successful. We talked many times about the whole idea here of okay, we've got a coach who his only method is to make the players hate him, and that's the way he's going to coach, and that's how he's going to make it work. And in order to make a team hate you, what you've got to do a lot of extreme things. And there's coaches like that out there still in the NHL right now, tons of them. And I'm really surprised that I'm not surprised that this isn't going to come out more in the forefront here.
Now, moving on here, because I was at the Sabres Devils game last night, Eck, and honestly, I'm surprised it's 1:30 right now. I'm surprised that John Hines has not been fired yet as Devils coach. I know Russ,
they're going at it again tonight.
Yeah, well, yeah. And Russ and I talked about this yesterday. They had a horrible game against the Rangers on the weekend. They gave up a couple shorthanded goals last night. They started Louis Domingue. He gave up 3 goals on 5 shots. They seemed completely unmotivated. We noticed Taylor Hall being slotted in on the third line on a team that has trouble generating offense. So, I mean, Jack Hughes is out injured. I saw him in the press box. Yeah. So right now, this team is a complete mess. And I don't know whether they're waiting for some reason to fire Hines or if they're going to just stick with him. But I think this has an effect on what you wrote about, which was the Taylor Hall stuff. And we talked about it a little bit yesterday, but
there's a little bit of a chicken and egg there with Taylor Hall. I mean, we're getting to that point now where I think the Taylor Hall thing is now that it's become apparent pretty much to everybody that Hall's not going to stay in New Jersey. Now, at that point, and with the team losing, it's really like it's a death spiral. Like they're kind of in a spot where you can't get they can't get the motivation up, and then Hughes is hurt as well. It's really just a bad spot.
Well, here's where I think New Jersey is mildly screwed, because Taylor Hall's agent is Darren Ferris.
Yeah,
Darren Ferris will never allow Taylor Hall to sign an 8-year extension, no matter where he's traded. He's going to hit the market and get the best return he possibly can, unless he goes to someplace he signs off on and can get the same type of money that he would get as a free agent, which would be an 8-year max deal at probably like $10 million. And I don't see that scenario coming around. So that limits what the Devils can get in a deal for Hall. They'll get a good return.
Well, let's play for a second though. That is his agent, but we got it. And the history we have with the agent is guys like Nylander, right? And
Marner,
not Nylander. Nylander's somebody else. Marner. I think it's sometimes hard to put, and he is definitely one of these agents that likes. It was Marner and
Athanasiou and Josh Anderson from Columbus.
So is Pasternak not one of his, or is Pasternak Nylander? Are they the same agent? I'm not getting things.
No, I think they're friends. I know Nylander and Pasternak are friends, but I don't think Louis Gross is the same. Is both of their agents?
Or Pasternak is the same agent as one of these guys. Anyway,
I know that Nylander used Pasternak's amount as a benchmark.
Maybe that's what I'm confused. Anyway, the point here is that at the end of the day, even though he's a tough ass agent, it depends on the kind of what your client is telling you to do. I mean, Hall is going to, if Hall gets traded to a place where he wants to go and he wants to play there, he'll make that happen. Like the agent will make that happen too. I'm not in the feeling that Hall can be intimidated.
No, I agree, but he's not signing a deal with anybody. He's going to free agency.
No, I think he's going to free agency too, unless he gets traded to the place he wants to sign.
Even then, I don't think he's going to sign a deal.
Yeah, it's not going to be like Mark Stone, because remember, Mark Stone got traded.
Right.
Yeah.
Ottawa got value. They didn't get the best value that they could, but they got value. And then he signed the deal the same day. So I don't think that's happening. I don't think that Darren Ferris is agreeing to a deal for Hall before July.
But let's. The other thing is the other part of this act is Andy Vatanen also has to be traded. Like Wayne Simmons is going to be traded. He's not getting much, so we're going to leave Wayne Simmons out of it. Yeah. But Vatanen is going to have to be traded, and he's their best defenseman this year.
Yeah.
And the return that they get for Vatanen and for Hall is going to affect them for the next 4 to 5 years.
Now,
their future.
Yeah.
Now let's. Russ and I were, we talked about this yesterday. We'll play a little game, because essentially use the Mark Stone deal as sort of a blueprint.
Yep.
What a team like, say, now we'll take 3 or 4 teams, like say Colorado. If Colorado goes to New Jersey and says, I want Taylor Hall, they can, there's no cap retention needed because Colorado has the cap space.
Right.
What is Colorado, what is the minimum that Colorado is going to have to give up in a deal for Hall?
Well, I do think I do think the reason that one thing caveat I'll throw, and we'll play this game for sure, but I do think that the caveat that has to be thrown is we know long enough in advance that Hall is going to be traded.
Yes.
That Shiro, I believe, will give teams an opportunity to talk extension with him before the deal is made. And I think that will change things a lot. Like, so that's why you have to say, if we're talking about no extension at all, okay, let's play this game under those terms, because I do think at the end of the day, the extension talk will change things. But I think Colorado is a great example, because Colorado is a team that could trade for him without requiring an extension because they feel like they're close enough with him to win it all. Okay, so they have, and Ratinen comes back and just tears it up, and they're looking great again. So they are. So if it's Colorado, but some teams are different. But Colorado, Nashville's another team that could possibly do it without an extension.
Well, I think they're at the point where they can't.
Well, as you said,
they shouldn't. Maybe that's a better answer.
You said, they would have to find somebody to take Turris' contract off their hands, and I think it's easier to understand the impeachment hearings than it would be to get somebody to take Kyle Turris off the Nashville Predators' hands.
I would think so, but the crazy thing about Kyle Turris is there's definitely a group of people out there that still believe in him. I don't know why. Like I don't know why. I don't think
there's a reason not to believe in him, but with the price tag, then there's a reason to not want to trade for him.
Let's see this. I think there are people out there who would still believe in Kyle Turris as a $3.5 million player, not as a $6 million player.
No, and I think this is the case where the Predators are going to have to keep salary, which they've never really been a team that's done, right? But at the same time, Poile also has never been he's been a very aggressive GM. And Poile's probably traded more. This would be a good blog to write, but I'll give somebody else a chance to write it out there. But Poile's probably traded more money, more salary cap than anybody else in the NHL. Mm-hmm. When you think about it, Poile has traded serious dollars around. Now, this. So I think that if he can move Turris and bring in Hall, I think he would do it.
Now, the Stone deal was Brandstrom, Eric Brandstrom, a former first-round pick who, we talked about yesterday. He's either a grade A or a grade B plus prospect.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oscar Lindberg, who played 20 games for Ottawa and then went to Europe. So basically,
they didn't know he was going to do that. Like, he wasn't an NHLer, a fringe NHLer.
Right, but he was probably a salary dump because they had to clear space for Stone.
Right.
For last year, and a 2020 second-round pick. Now, I think that Ottawa, because they were basically in a position where they were going to lose him for nothing anyway, they were up against the wall. The reason Shiro's talking deal right now is he wants to generate a market, and there will be a market for Hall. So I think they'll get more than what Ottawa got for Stone. It's just
they will. So they will. They probably shouldn't, but they will.
Right.
I think Stone. Give me one player, Stone or Hall. I would be taking Stone every day.
Right. But it's all about the fact that Ottawa thought they could possibly re-sign Stone. They wanted to make him team captain. They waited until the 11th hour. They didn't play it the right way. Shiro knows Hall is gone. He's not going to get him signed to an extension. Sure. Let's make a deal. If it's Colorado, and we were talking about this, you're not getting Bowen Byram out of them.
No,
you're not getting. I mean, I'm sorry. I have all the respect in the world for Kevin Paul DuPont. But he posted on Twitter this morning, if you're Vancouver, would you give up Quinn Hughes or Pedersen in a deal for Taylor Hall? I mean, only if Jim Benning is insane.
Yeah, that's not happening. Kevin Paul DuPont is wrong on that.
Yeah, so I mean, that's not the kind of return to now. Like we said yesterday, we're talking about a Connor Timmins, maybe a first round pick and something else. But that's sort of the area. I think it would be like I was saying just before on Sirius, like a Nikita Zadorov, like the rights to maybe Sampo Ranta, who's a good college player, and a conditional first. And I think they should be more worried about the players than they should be about the pick. Yeah. They're going to already have a high pick. Yeah. You need to get one player out of it and one who's close, or at least, and by close, if Ranta were to make it, it would be 3-4 years, but at least that's closer than someone you're picking this year with their pick, because you're going to be 30, somewhere between 28 and 31 on that. Exactly. So let's just quickly go through some of the teams that have been rumored, and I can bring up my chart because I have that. Do it. So, I'll bring it on here. Calgary was the team that's been mentioned. I see. This is the thing. I don't see a fit in terms of what Calgary could give up in terms of a good enough prospect on top of a high draft pick to make that deal. Are we talking? Valimaki is coming off ACL surgery. They have a couple of good young defensemen like Shillington, but he's not. I think he's sort of he is what he is. I think he's going to be a marginal 5-6 defenseman. I don't see where they would go in terms of Calgary to make that kind of deal. Vancouver, we've heard that one. I think Russ, you mentioned Virtanen. Yeah, I think Jake Virtanen would be a guy that, if you were in Vancouver, you would look for. I think they would have to go conditional first as well. Yeah. And then, it would be some other prospect or another pick. But Virtanen, at least you could put in your lineup and at least say, all right, look, this guy can play in our top 9 somewhere, somewhere second, third line, probably third line. But maybe he makes Zacha better. Maybe that helps making the whole team better. Maybe you put him with Boquist. At least there's something there where you say, all right, because Wayne Simmons is going to be gone, but Virtanen can still play that role. Right. True. When it comes to Nashville, now goaltending wise, we know that Mackenzie Blackwood is purportedly their future goalie. Would they have interest in a Saros? Would they want Dante Fabro in the deal? Ellie Tolvanen? There are some young. Yeah, I think those are the two that especially Tolvanen, who is who they might believe could have Mika Rattanen could help him out a lot. I think that would be something that they could, because Ellie Tolvanen has been a really disappointment. Yeah, but is unquestionably an incredibly skilled player. You know what I mean? Has skill. Well, he's a goal scorer. He's a guy who can shoot, and he's a goal scorer. He never had to play defense in his life. He's coming around on that, but his point total isn't great in the AHL. It's not. Yeah. Now, I like a team. We've heard Arizona being thrown in there. Yeah. It would probably have to be a Barrett Hayton. Sure. Someone like they won't trade Hayton, but I think you could get next tier guys from them, but they won't trade Hayton. No way. Yeah. They might trade Phil Kessel. He's got 4 goals. No. I also had, believe it or not, Edmonton on the list. And this is what I had heard about this. Edmonton. Wait. Go ahead. You say no. Go ahead. You say no, but Kessel has played for Shiro before, and maybe it's not working out for Phil Kessel in Arizona. He's having a crap year. He's minus 14. Yeah, he's really on a good team. On a good team. Yeah, on a good team. That team is the best defensive team, the best defensive team in the league right now. On a good team with a coach that he likes. Now, Edmonton, I would think Kaylor Yamamoto would have to be, or Puljujarvi would have to be in that deal. Yeah, I think either one. I think they both would have to be in that. Both would probably be in the deal, which might not be a bad move for Jersey. The thing is that, I've heard a couple things about Taylor Hall. One, obviously, you have a totally different GM there in Edmonton. And 2, you have a couple players in
McDavid and Hopkins, Nugent Hopkins, who both really want Taylor Hall back and have always.
And they want him back. I don't think he wants to go back.
No, I think he would go back. I do.
Oh, I disagree.
Really? I don't get that impression.
And I was just, even on Canadian radio, they disagree with that premise too. They don't think he wants to go back either.
Right. Now, the one I think
it doesn't mean it can't happen.
But I mean, how are they getting that information? I mean, where's that coming from? Because the people I'm talking to who are really close to him are definitely not saying that.
Well, I think they're just going with the fact that he was pretty frustrated when he left.
Yeah.
Most times when a player goes back to a place that they left, it's never the same.
Right. And the time that he enjoyed himself the most in Edmonton was under Ralph Kruger as head coach for that 48 games that they and Buffalo and Kruger have been mentioned regarding Hall. It's a question though regarding whether they could sign him long term and would they be willing to give up the assets. Now, if they stay in the race like they are right now, which I seriously doubt, then they might be willing to do that. But it would probably cost them a middle stat and a high draft pick, or a guy like a Sam Reinhart who they may not want to spend the money on because he's an RFA next year. But, you know, at a certain point, they have to give Eichel some help. They're putting Skinner on the second line.
Their problem is he has to re-sign with them, or it's not even.
Well, and they need to have, like, every team now is showing you need to have this like double threat type connection. You know, like they need Eichel and Hall. That gives them that. You know, that gives them that right off the bat.
Yeah,
puts them in the right spot. The problem, you know, with having one, like either just having one Hall or Eichel, it doesn't have the same. Randy brought up that Piovi's deadline date was December 1st. It doesn't mean you can't trade him.
Yeah, you can trade his rights. He just can't play in the NHL.
Play this year.
And Flamester, the thing is, we may be at the point with the Devils, and we talked about this yesterday. We may be at the point with the Devils that they don't want help this year. That they, you know, that they're so far behind. They probably are firing their coach that they want to be in the Alexis Lafreniere sweepstakes, and they're already in it. They'll probably be battling with Detroit and Los Angeles for positioning for the top pick. And, you know, they're gonna sell off they're not gonna sell off the guys like Coleman or Wood or Butcher who are under contract.
They might sell off Wood.
They might sell off Wood, but I'm saying they probably gonna keep the younger. You know, they're not gonna trade Heishier. They're not gonna trade Hughes, obviously. They're gonna keep Will Butcher, but they'll trade the guys who are expiring contracts, and they are not. Doesn't look like they have any motivation to win right now.
I'll tell you why they shouldn't do that. Because right now, Zach is doing marginally better than before. Heishier, just about on pace for last year, no better. Hughes starting to pick it up finally when he got top power play, when Fitzgerald was saying, hey, you should do this with them, and they did.
Yeah.
But do you really want these guys finishing out the season on that kind of low when they're not getting better? They have to get better for the Devils to get better.
Well, okay.
And another great pick to that doesn't add to the development of these players or the team.
Well, no, I mean
their player development stinks right now.
They're going to give them the opportunity to play. I mean, obviously, but
that's not enough.
Well,
yeah, I don't think it is either. I kind of agree with you. I do think what's going to happen before the deadline. I do think the trade will happen before the deadline. I don't think they'll wait because they'll try to get something. The question
I agree with you on that.
Yeah, I mean, and the question is, you know, what you can get, you know, and it really does shift gears at some point to, can you trade him to where he wants to go and where he can talk extension, to can you trade him to a team that just thinks that they'll take him for the run and try to win it, you know?
Well, that's the thing. All right, so another reason I don't think he'll want to go to Edmonton is I don't think he's going to look at Edmonton and think, whoa, with me there, we're going to win the cup.
Right. They may not make the playoffs still. I keep saying that, and people think I'm nuts.
I think he wants to go to a team like Colorado where you already see they're in playoff position, but they just need probably a little something. That's not Edmonton. I'm sorry.
Imagine Colorado, because Colorado may not have to give anything up off of their roster to get Hall. Imagine Colorado, when fully healthy, having a number one line of Landeskog, Rantanen, and McKinnon, and then having a number two line with Taylor Hall and Nazem Kadri, with probably Burakovsky. That's insane. That is really good. And Mark, I'm not nuts. Believe me, I'll take the slings and arrows at the end of the year if the Oilers make the playoffs. But I'm telling you right now, that team is fatally flawed and could miss the playoffs. Mark my words.
They could. Everybody could. But I don't see there being anything that points towards that. But we're not going to.
I don't see them on a long playoff run. I don't.
I mean, I think they're a playoff team now. Do I think they're going to finish first in the conference? I don't think that. I never really thought they were going to finish first in the conference, but I thought they would.
Even if they made an upgrade on defense with the goaltending they have, even if you want to say Koskinen's better than we thought, I'll go with that for this premise and add another defenseman. And I still don't think they have enough. They need so much help.
Right, and
if they want to get out of the first round. That's what I'm saying. If you want to go to the conference final, they need a lot of help.
And Boston may not be a fit. Boston's name has been out there. Boston may not be a fit simply because Hall's a left winger and they're stacked on the left side. They need.
I don't know if that's going to happen.
They need a right winger, and I mean that they brought in. It's I don't know whether who the best one out there, but Hall's a left winger, so I don't know if that fits.
Yeah, and I also think Boston has other avenues to look towards,
No, I think a team like Calgary, if they knew Hall would sign with them long term, might trade Gaudreau for Hall then. But
that could happen. I mean, I think so too. And I think that Hall would sign long term in Calgary. I mean,
I think there's a chance, but I think if he looks at them, it's just slightly better than the Devils. That's all it is. And I think right now, Taylor Hall is going to look for more. He's going to try and do what Ray Bourque and others have done and get on that team that looks like they're getting to the cup and he could just be a part of it.
Yeah.
I think what he's going to do with this part of his free agent season coming up is to try and ride that because he's not had that in his career.
Yeah. He does go to the playoffs. I think there's no question about that.
Now, we talked about this yesterday, and I thought there was a chance that this would happen, but Keith Kincaid had been placed on waivers by Montreal. They ended up calling up Caden Primo it doesn't sound like this is going to be a permanent thing. He may go down
I don't think it will be.
Laval for 2 or 3 games, play, and then come back. But there was some question of whether Kincaid, with his history, and he played great 2 years ago, whether he'd get claimed by somebody. We know that there are a couple teams out there, including Toronto, who we would think are desperate for help at backup goaltender. But the problem is that Kincaid makes $1.75 million, and the Leafs could not afford, even if they were interested, to claim him because that they wouldn't be able to fit him under the cap. And Russ mentioned yesterday, the Blackhawks last night playing St. Louis, Andrew Shaw and Dylan Strome were both out injured.
Yep.
They didn't have enough bodies. They played 17 skaters.
Yeah, I know.
They're not even good enough to do that, but they're hamstrung to the point. But they had to do it, and Keith is out, and Leonard's out, and
but the thing is, Russ, this is a symptom of a greater problem because, like Toronto, Mitch Marner is going to be back from his injury tomorrow. He's not playing tonight against Philadelphia. He will be activated tomorrow. It's the minimum 24 days for long-term injury.
But the greater problem is cap management, isn't it? This is like you going to your dad every year to raise your allowance, and your dad looks at you one of those years and says, no.
Yeah, I mean, that they don't have enough money to sign a 1.75 backup goalie is definitely their fault. I mean, that's
no, they were more concerned about signing one of the best centers in the league for $11 million, and they figured.
I don't think it's the $11 million player that counts in this situation. I think there's other players. We're looking at only $1.75 million. I think you're looking at other players that they could.
You are looking at other players. I agree with that.
I mean, I think the big players are going to get their money. It's the cap management comes in your third and fourth liners. That's where it comes in.
Right, and they waived Nick Shore today, and But the thing is, once they activate Marner tomorrow, they have to get down to 21 players. They're going to be carrying, the maximum is 23. They're going to be carrying 21 because they can't afford to carry 23. But I'm saying Chicago doing what they did, Calgary a few years ago, the Leafs having to penny pinch. I mean, we know where this is going. I was telling Russ before when we were talking about the show today, I'm like, where this is going. When the new CBA comes along, these teams are going to have to have a compliance buyout again because they're all up against the cap.
Yeah, I mean, you would do it. Yeah, I mean, I would think so. I would like to have that happen, but I mean, I would like to have it. I would like to be some way of clearing out all these cap issues. But the bottom, at the end of the day, the problem is the cap didn't go up last year, and that still is killing teams. Where
Right, but you can't
teams were planning for that, right? They were planning.
Can't plan for that exactly.
Yeah, they were thinking that we'd have at least a couple $1 million more, because that's usually what happens, right? So in this case, they didn't have that, and that's the problem. So I think that you really can't. It's a tough spot. You can't really plan for that. At the same time, you have to be able to find enough money to sign a goalie for that little. If you're Toronto, if you can get Kincaid, you should, and you have a chance to. They should have gone for it, I think, but they didn't. He cleared through waivers.
Right. I mean, again, there are other teams that could have used them too, and I just think this is the old boys network at work, because Keith Kincaid is good enough that somebody would have picked him up, and I'm just shocked that they didn't.
Yeah, I knew Toronto wouldn't because of the issue that we just talked about, but I thought somebody else might, and there were some teams out there that, probably could have used a backup goaltender of his quality. Now the question is whether they think he's still quality, and I
think they do. I just think
he didn't play great for New Jersey last year. They traded him to Columbus. He was the third string goalie. I don't think he played a game for them. He was signed. Everybody thought that was a good signing with Montreal. Here's a goaltender who could play 30 games behind Carey Price. He's 1-1-3 with a save percentage of .875 and over 4 goals against. So, this is not a permanent thing for them. It's sort of a shock wave, and they're trying to shake out of a 8-game losing streak right now. So, I mean, I get that, but.
Boys Network. It is. Somebody could have used Keith Kincaid. They know he can play. They know what the defensive problems are in Montreal.
Yeah.
They didn't touch them because you know what? Teams are going to want to do stuff before Christmas as well with the waivers, and I think that's why they just let this one go.
Yeah, or they're really just trying to they're trying to make somebody like a team like Toronto end up trading somebody for him to bring up, to move to get something for him.
Well, and I made that argument yesterday. It was like, why would Montreal is not going to go out of the way to help Toronto? They're battling with Toronto for a play.
No, that's really true. There's really no reason they would.
Are they going to retain? Are they going to retain? Like say Toronto would say, we'll give you Michael Hutchinson for. Hutchinson's down. We could send down Hutchinson down to the minors. You bury the $800,000, and we'll trade for Kincaid. But you have to eat like $400,000 to balance out the books. Why?
I mean,
why?
Yeah. Montreal and Toronto don't even get sat near each other at the draft.
Yeah.
The reason.
Yeah, no, that's not. I mean, there's absolutely no. Especially there's not at this point. It depends how close you get.
There's too much history there.
Yeah, if the Canadiens would absolutely fall out of the playoff race, which I don't think is going to happen, could be possibly a little different.
Oh, I don't know. They're on their way. They better do something quick because.
Well, yeah, with all. I mean, obviously,
I think they're one of the teams that will try and get Taylor Hall, and they do have some assets. So And
I think Hall would go there too. I've heard a lot. I've heard the Hall definitely wants to go to a Canadian team if possible. So.
Well, it increases visibility.
Yeah,
it would help him for next year,
right?
For the summer.
Yeah, but he wants to go to some place where he can play in the playoffs, like you said. That's going to make a difference. Because if he's only going to a Canadian team if they're definitely making.
Montreal could possibly sell him on it because of Carey Price. They're not that far out, and Claude Julien's a good coach. They might be able to sell him on that. It's a better sell than some of the other teams. Like it's probably even a better sell than Calgary because of their goalie.
Yeah, and if there's a lot of compliance buyout talk in the chat room, if it isn't a compliance buyout, there has to be some mechanism for these teams to be able to to wipe a salary off the books because we're not talking one or two irresponsible teams like Toronto and Calgary or Chicago or whatever up against the cap. We're talking about 10 to 15 teams.
Listen, if there's a compliance buyout in the chat room, I'm buying out Morello.
I don't the compliance buyout is such a controversial thing and always has been among the not as wealthy teams because they sit there and say, if you're a wealthy team and you make those mistakes, and not so wealthy teams will tell you that the only reason that they can't compete is because wealthy teams will make mistakes.
Right.
That's the end of the day. So.
And Kyle Dubas made a mistake a little over a year ago with placing McElhinney on waivers, and he probably did it because that was one of the few things he could do to screw Babcock, because him and Babcock were warring over the roster. So he did something for the wrong reason. And this is my theory. This is nothing I've ever heard, but I'm saying if that was the reason, and he believed in Garrett Sparks, so his judgment was off on Garrett Sparks because Garrett Sparks was a gas can. Now they've lost all 7 of their starts with the backup goaltender in there. It could, if it continues to go on, it could cost them a playoff spot. And Dubas came out yesterday and said, well, I need the team in front of Michael Hutchinson to play better for him to win. He gave him a vote of confidence. If he loses a couple more games, he's going to have to pay the price, even though if the price is inflated, he's going to have to pay the price for a backup goaltender.
Oh, no question. No question answered. I wanted to talk to you a little bit briefly about I do have another trade room. Before we get to that, the whole concept of how bad exactly Detroit is right now. And some people
minus 53, we could start there.
Yeah, that's a big thing. I mean, if you put that into perspective, like, we've seen how bad other teams have been, over the past several years.
Right.
I'm trying to remember right, but I think I was trying to look this up real fast, and I got it as you guys were doing this. Here it is. So last year, the Ottawa Senators, what were their plus? Were they minus? They were minus. I'll tell you right now. Okay, so the Oilers, the Kings last year were minus 61. The Ottawa Senators last year were minus 60.
Yeah.
Through 82 games. You're looking at a team that's minus 50 through 30 games. Mm-hmm. That's literally, works out to epic. Like bad beyond anyone's imagination. Bad.
Here is the recipe for disaster when it comes to the Red Wings. 3 of their top 4 salaried forwards and their top 2 salaried defensemen are all either washed up, injured, or vastly overpaid. Franz Nielsen, Abdelkader, Helm, Green, and Trevor Daley.
Yeah.
They did nothing during the offseason. They signed Bernier as a backup. They signed Patrick Nemeth to a 2-year contract, and they added one other player, Valtteri Filppula, who's hurt. Right. So they did nothing in free agency. They made no significant trades, and all Yzerman has done so far this year, and I agree with what he's doing. He's looking for bargains. He went and picked up Adam Ernie from Tampa. He picked up Fabry. He picked up Brendan Perlini. We know where they're going. They're going the direction that Buffalo did a few years ago with McDavid and Eichel. They're going the same direction that Toronto did with Matthews. They're tanking.
Look, I can give you the best things that I saw the other day against Philly. So I'm in the locker room, and Helen St. James asks Luke Glendening, "You're minus 50, the differential. What can you do to fix this?" And he's at a loss. Like, he doesn't want to tank. Yeah. He's a veteran that's got a lot of pride. Sure. I felt horrible for him because you could see the inner turmoil. So then Franz Nielsen comes out, and he's trying to think about it. But Franz Nielsen also knows he's not going to be traded, and they can't do anything with his contract.
Yeah.
So whatever, he sort of has it's bad. It is. We should be better. We're all accountable, but wasn't sort of as bothered by it as Glendening. And that's when it really hit me. So then I looked it up, and Colorado in 16-17 was a minus 112. Right. And I think the Red Wings are going to be there because Green's going to be on. I think. And the other thing that really bugged me in that game was they had Zadina on the third line. Right. They had Darren Helm still playing the second line. At some point, you have to have a changing of the guard and give this guy a chance to play with your better players to see what you've got. Yeah. And sticking with these veterans that aren't getting you anywhere anyhow.
Yeah, but I don't think that's this year for them, Russ. I think what they're doing is they're purposely burying, like the Leafs did in 2016. They buried Nylander, they buried Kapanen, they buried all these guys.
That's fine. You still don't want your players to not develop as a result. Yeah. Helm's going to do the same on the third line as he would on the second, but Zadina needs to play with skilled players.
Right, but I don't think Zadina is going to be up there much longer. He's up there as a temporary hole plug. He's going to go back to Grand Rapids and play with Veleno and play with Sider and play with all their young guys, and they're going to keep them there most of the year. They're not going to burn, with some of them, they're not burning the first year of entry level. They're saving those kids from being part of one of the worst seasons in Wings history. And this is an organization, remember, that in the 70s, they were a friggin' joke.
Believe me, I lived through that because like my dad was a Detroit Red Wings fan, and I was
remember the good old days, Russ, an act of Johnny Ogrodnik and Mike Blake.
Oh yeah, no, I remember
Willie Huber.
Like how excited my dad was when like Draper came into the lineup.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, back that was like how things were desperate, and then of course getting Yzerman was such an enormous deal. But then Yzerman, remember, in the first couple of years, even he had trouble there. They weren't any good with him there either.
Young captain, sure,
right,
remember all of that.
Right, but I mean, I'm talking even before that, like the Nick Libet, Ron Stackhouse, Jim Rutherford years, the mid 70s.
Yeah, those were the hard ones. I mean, my memories of my dad were him listening on like to
Dale McCourt and Mike Foligno, and then they get traded for a bunch of old guys like Danny Gare and Jim Schoenfeld.
I heard Steve Yzerman on one thing. He said it's a 5-year rebuild. It's a 5-year rebuild.
Yeah, it's a 5-year rebuild. He's not lying, and you know what? He is using the gravitas and the respect and the Hall of Fame credentials that he has.
Yes. He has that shield, which will last about 3 years. It'll last 3 years.
To carry them through this crap. Exactly.
Yeah. Holland knew what he was doing. Put it that way. Ken Holland knew what he was doing.
Well, it was partially of his making.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I think so too. But I mean, part of that was that team just did manage to continue to be better than they should have been for a while.
Yeah.
And that was because they had some gutsy players on there too, and
they did.
And they had a coach who was, they had all that stuff. So I don't know. That's an interesting one. I can't wait to see how they're doing. I mean, talking about the Sabres though with Eichel and what Eichel has done lately though, people just quietly have realized how well Eichel's playing lately though, Mike. I mean, he's tearing it up.
He's playing fantastic
for them.
But I have to caution Sabre fans, and I had a discussion with Mike Harrington in the press box yesterday where I says, people do realize that if the Sabres played the Leafs 82 times, they would be considered a Stanley Cup contender because they play so much better against the Leafs than everybody else. They've gone 2-0-1 in the last 3 games, but it was back-to-back against Toronto and against New Jersey, who they destroyed on opening night. And now, what did they do in the 13 games before that? They went 2-8-3. So they're going out on a West Coast trip: Calgary, Vancouver, Edmonton. Let's see what they do in that. And then when they come back, they face the Stanley Cup champion Blues. So there could be a correction pretty quickly. No doubt Eichel's having a great year. They're getting more contributions from guys like Olsen. Reinhardt's having an okay year. Skinner's not doing as well as he did last year, but he's doing okay. But overall, they haven't been getting a lot of depth scoring. They have been recently, like guys like Sheary and VC have stepped up. I'm still very skeptical. I don't think the Sabres are a playoff team.
I have breaking news.
Go ahead.
Matt Stajan retired.
I saw that too. I was going to bring that up.
A regular scheduling program.
That is like that is like one of the guys though probably who was in the top 100 of Hockey Buzz rumor players over the years.
Matt Stajan
has been traded and rumored to be traded many, many, many times.
Matt Stajan, who was traded in the Dion Phaneuf deal. Yes,
let's not forget that. Matt Stajan, who was people. So Patrick, Nolan Patrick has come out actually and talked today, Russ.
Oh, what did he say?
Yeah, so he says he expects to play this season. He talked to Kimmelman.
Right.
He said it's obviously frustrating when it's not an injury where you're going to be back in 6 weeks. Patrick said today. There's no timeline to it. Obviously, I'm hoping to get back soon, and I believe I'll play this year. That's something I'm trying to stick with. Not a very resounding.
It doesn't really make fans warm and fuzzy.
Every one of those quotes is, I'm trying to. Obviously, hopefully, this will probably, I think, quote.
Yeah, I mean, he's not even practicing with contact.
Right, that's true. So he says, obviously, is more from Patrick. Obviously, you have to have a baseline of how much you can do. If I feel good doing that for a week, then I'll elevate a little bit more. There's obviously a place a plan in place but basically I just off how I feel. The strength coaches and the training staff try to put together a program for me, but like I said before, at the end of the day, it's how I'm feeling. If I'm not feeling that great, we'll just pump the brakes a little bit. I'm just trying to put together more good days in a row than bad. I just think we need to.
I feel bad, but you see how it says Russ is skeptical, Cohen? I'm skeptical that he's going to play this year.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm skeptical that they would even let him play this year. I'm going to throw that out there because I think that if I'm the Flyers, there's just absolutely no point.
You forgot a word there. It's Russ is always skeptical.
I mean, Vigneault comes in with not even much more resounding optimism. He says he is progressing. He's doing more off-ice workouts, and he's skating a little bit more on his own. Hopefully, that's a positive sign. Hopefully, that's all I can really tell you. I don't know much more than that. That's
what this reminds me of? When Carey Price was skating for weeks and we knew he was never coming back.
Yeah.
Remember, like we would get the videos of Carey Price skating alone, those sad videos.
Yeah.
The Carey Price update, yes.
Right. Yeah, like Carey Price, like standing in his crease with just a waffle and a glove on.
Yeah.
Breaking news: Carey Price just went to the bathroom. Film at 11.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mean to make light of it. It's tough for the.
No, it's a horrible situation, but and it reminds. I mean, Flyers fans, it reminds him of the Eric Lindros sagas, of course, in many years. Where there were situations where of course, that was Eric Lindros, which is the most important player of the team at the time. Patrick is still a young player. Patrick's still young enough that this could absolutely be a good idea for him not to play this year. Although he's going to have to stay in shape. I think the big issue is just staying in shape and not losing his edge at all, which is going to be really hard coming off this.
Hey, more breaking news. John Moore is back on the Bruins. I know everybody's waiting for that.
Really?
Come on. They were gonna break in on CNN for that one.
Yeah. That's tricky.
All right.
So of all the teams in the NHL, I'll leave with this guy today because this is pretty fun. Of all the teams in the NHL, of all the teams in sports, okay, every sports team, college, pro, I guess Little League, whatever you want to say.
Okay.
All the teams in sports, there was a survey that just came out recently, which is the most popular sports team in every state in the country, and the NHL had one of them. Who is it?
Can you say it one more time?
So most popular team in each state. The most popular sports team. For example, New York State, the Yankees.
Right. Vegas Golden Knights for Nevada.
That would be it. The Vegas Golden Knights, the only NHL team on this list. It's pretty. I'll show you this. It's pretty cool. I like this. I saw this on.
It makes sense. I mean, we'll see if that's the case next year when the Raiders are there.
Yeah, because they were battling the UNLV running Rebels.
Right.
Right. Here's the.
Maybe the XFL, Mike. We're not sure. I don't know if they have a team.
Here you have the most popular teams from each state. And it's funny because the Steelers are more popular in Pennsylvania than the Eagles are, which I would not have guessed. But I guess that's
Super Bowls mean something.
Yeah, but population does too. I mean, the population base of Philadelphia is way higher than the population base of Pittsburgh.
I don't know. There's a lot of Carson Wentz bashing. I don't believe. Well, I guess only because it's recent that the Nationals are ahead of the Capitals, but honestly, they're not.
Yeah, people in New Mexico got to get a life. I mean, my God, they're rooting for the Cowboys.
They're rooting for the Cowboys there. Yeah.
How about the Lobos? Come on.
Yeah.
Arizona, like they just have nothing.
No, I know they're just it's just hilarious.
I mean, Coyotes could steal that market. They could
steal that market. I know, but
now I'm because it's a small picture.
Yeah.
Is that the Memphis Grizzlies being the most?
Yeah, I think so.
I can zoom in here.
Montana? Is that?
No, that would be in Montana. That's the I'm guessing that's North Dakota. Would it be North Dakota University of North? No, that's not.
Is it Gonzaga? Could it be Gonzaga?
It'd be Gonzaga probably. I bet it is.
Really sad is that in Michigan, the University of Michigan is number one.
I know.
Missoula Muckrakers are not the.
No, but think about that. Detroit Red Wings, Detroit Pistons, Detroit Tigers.
That's South Dakota. That's not
Lions, but you know what I'm saying. It's
yeah. That would not be. Yeah, what state is that?
And Tennessee has no popular team, or is that Tennessee? Oh, that's the Tennessee. Okay, sorry.
That would be the University of Tennessee.
Oh, white. I didn't see the T in the middle of it.
Right. So Montana is the Grizzlies. I think.
Hold on. I'm going to call foul here.
Yeah.
Now you're trying to tell me at this moment the Cardinals are still more popular than the Blues?
Oh, no questions asked. That's not even close.
Come on.
No, it's not even close. There's the Cardinals are enormous.
Right.
I know.
The Cardinals have won I think 12 World Series. They love their Cardinals.
It doesn't. It's like, to me,
Is that one World Series? God forbid Mike ever root for a team that doesn't win a World Series.
Yeah, I would bet the Cardinals are more popular than the Kansas City
What
Chiefs.
can I say, Russ? I'm a winner.
I'm surprised the Cardinals don't reach into Kansas there as well, or down to what would that be?
Arkansas,
yeah, where the Razorbacks are. I mean, that
Kansas, yeah.
They are just enormous. They are so big in that.
I pity Chicago at this point. I mean, the Blackhawks really should be ahead of the Cubs, but like it's a toss-up. It's like,
yeah,
come on, Russ. The Cubs were more popular when they blew.
I know.
So
who's that? Wisconsin? Who's that? Like next to the Cubs? Would that be?
That's Green Bay Packers.
No, I'm not. Sorry, not Wisconsin. So to the
Indianapolis, it's the Colts.
If it's Iowa, that's the Iowa Hawkeyes.
Iowa Hawkeyes. That's what it is. Yeah, there you go.
Ohio is Ohio State University. Like I get that one.
The Eagles only have Delaware. That's all they own. That's what you went on this thing on this list. And the Yankees own New Jersey as well.
Of course, they should.
And Connecticut.
Yeah, that's a tough one with the Yankees. Like the Giants probably are ahead of the Yankees in New Jersey. I think that's wrong.
Yeah, I mean, the North Jersey is
the Yankees owning Long Island. I'm going to tell you that's false. There's not as many Yankee fans on Long Island.
Well, this is by state, so it's not. This is like a
I will tell you, Russ, that
win the whole state thing.
The Yankees are the most popular team in Western New York.
How about this? Yeah, how about the Seahawks being the most popular thing in Alaska? Pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the Seahawks spread all the way to Canada too.
Yeah, I mean, just the Seahawks. I mean, just I guess they're the closest NFL team, but it's still like 1,500 miles. So you're talking about like a big difference between the distance between Washington State and Alaska.
Yeah, it's the closest team. What can you say?
Yeah, it's really
the fact that Minnesota, it's still the Vikings, is a little sad too. I mean, they're a decent team. Don't get me wrong, but like they've never won a Super Bowl.
And in South Dakota, Minnesota is the biggest one too.
Like, hold on. Like they've never won a Super Bowl. At least the Twins have won it.
That's true. Yeah. Well, sometimes
the Minneapolis Lakers won the championship, didn't they? Come on, wake up over there.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the Indianapolis thing is pretty funny with the Colts because that's kind of like that's really a state where I would have expected Indiana basketball to win it. That's where I would have thought that was like the biggest thing in India.
The Dodgers haven't won the World Series in forever. Are you right now telling me at this moment the Dodgers are more popular than the Lakers? No way.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised it wasn't the Golden State Warriors.
Right. But if nothing else, it's going to be the Lakers with LeBron. There's no way the Dodgers are more popular right now, this moment.
Yeah, well, they're basing this on Google Trends and survey data.
Crap.
There you have it. All right, that's all the time we have for today. We're back to Flyers Leafs tonight. That'll be kind of fun. We'll talk about that. Two teams that are playing pretty well right now. As young Sheldon comes to town. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you